Hello and welcome back to Talk Tonight. This is season 2, episode 1. Obviously, firstly, I would like to talk about the fact that I guess that I've not been on the podcast for quite a while. We did do a little video earlier, a couple of maybe sort of like 7-10 days ago. I've not been feeling very well. I've had a terrible cold, and I've been feeling like really, really rough over the last sort of like 10 days. And I started to feel a little bit better this morning. So I thought, well, I'm gonna do the podcast because it be coming up to a year since we started doing the podcasts a year ago, and yeah, I just can't believe it's been a year. We did obviously 14 different episodes, and I guess that took a little bit of a stop. And there was a few reasons why I was feeling not quite by myself. My mental health and some of my depression was coming on like quite strong. There's obviously things we're going to talk about on the podcast now, things that have happened over the last sort of like, I guess over the last 3-4 months really. And I guess that like, I always wanted to come back to the podcast. Like it's something which is like super important to me, as it is like right now. Like I say, I'm thinking a lot of time to change things around with the podcast a little bit, give it a rebrand, change things around a little bit. But I guess that like I'm in a situation right now where sort of like things for me, my body has changed a little bit, but like I have been sort of like trying to get myself pretty busy as well. So, like I said, welcome back. I still hit over 1 million views, which is just absolutely crazy. It's just crazy. And I'm so happy that the videos still go on and people still sort of say to me, when's the podcast going to come back on? And I guess that like, I was sort of like worrying a little bit like about how the podcast was going to start again. So I wanted episode 1, Life and Tribulation, to talk about things like mental health and depression and talk about some of the things that I've had problems with, but obviously to talk about other people. So the importance of taking time for yourself is really important. If you're not looking after yourself and you're not sort of like protecting your body as much as you possibly can, then things become like really, really tough. Like losing our gym, it'll be up to me close to a year now, where the gym stopped. And I think that during that time, losing my part of my body has definitely sort of like reduced in terms of my time and how I feel. I know that like I'm struggling with things with like my mitochondrial and some of my fatigue that I do struggle with. I lost that time and I felt like I lost my friends because I was always talking to people in the gym. I was always sort of like, even like we weren't making any money in the gym. I think I used my body to keep myself going. And when the gym stopped, I felt that like my back started to freeze up a little bit. I started to feel a struggle with my left arm. I think it was just like holding pads for like 11 years was just brutal. And I stopped all of a sudden. We did start going to the village, the gym, but I was starting to sort of like to struggle with some of my left arm. So what I want to try sort of like say is like I've started to coach with football with 10-year-old girls, which again is quite stressful, as you can imagine. But I'm starting to use my body a bit doing some drills with them, sort of like getting my back working again, which is again really positive. But I think that like mental health can be really sort of like tough at times, where you're feeling really, really rough. So if you can sort of like to help your body as much as you can, get yourself out for a walk. I try to get myself out for a walk every day, whether it's like a long walk. I go to we live obviously by the park. I try to walk down to the park as much as I possibly can. It's very close to the woods. Then I go down to the woods and try to get myself out to a walk, even if I'm feeling a little bit stressed. I can rewire myself. It was like even in the wind that was so windy the other day. Again, I was trying to sort of like feel myself a little bit like I was stressed and I was like really sort of like stressed myself. So I went down to the shop, got myself a cup of tea, and went for a walk. And about 45 minutes, 50 minutes later, I started to feel like a little bit better. What I do need to start doing is getting in touch with people and just saying, can you come for a walk with me? Because like I have got friends, and there are people that sort of like can get out and have like a conversation, get themselves out, and try to sort of like to meet people like I used to. I think that like I'm stuck in this house way too much. Um, so yeah, like trying sort of like to get your own mental health like running and to get your body working, then things will start to, I guess, will feel like go back a little bit back to what it used to be like, which is obviously for me was always super, super busy. I would like work 10 hours, then we would go to the gym, and then like it'd be like 9 p.m. Um, and then like, but sort of like start to look after the kids. There's like, we've got like four of them, with obviously, all sort of like the problems that we got. Um, but yeah, I guess I like trying to sort of like get yourself like up for a walk, trying to get yourself up every single day, whether it's go to the gym, go for a walk, you might feel to start like a little bit better. So it's definitely started to help myself as much as I possibly can. Um, so yeah, it was just like being a little bit perceptive, patience, and purpose. Have a little bit of purpose in your life. Again, sometimes I do struggle, and I think that like I need to overthink what I'm doing. Take one step, take two steps, two, three, so that I can sort of like to rewire. Because sometimes my brain is like going a million times, and I think it's because of my mitochondrial and sometimes that my stroke caused me sort of like sore issues with my mental health. I think that like when I had my stroke, I felt fine because like I didn't really sort of like have to worry too much about anything. And now obviously sometimes, yeah, I have got depression. I have bad days. Like I'm open about depression. And if anyone wants to have a conversation with me about things like depression, anxiety, problems, it's okay to talk. Like, I know that like there's a little bit of a thing about mental health and that sort of stuff, and people will over talk about it. But like, if you can just have that little bit of a talk, it definitely helps. So, I wanted to talk about something, um, which has come into my life again, um, which is a very I guess like a tough time really. My friend Shane Williams, who I met 8 years ago, um, at my gym doing white collar boxing shows. Um, I was doing a show in Coventry, and obviously I met my friend or one of the boxers, Shane. He turned up with his city glasses and his stupid cap, and he turned up on his motorbike. And he was going to do the 8 weeks of training of sort of like white collar boxing, called it Heroes for 6 minutes at the time. I was doing shows like all across the UK, and we decided to do a show in Coventry. So yeah, I met Shane Williams, and yeah, Shane Williams, not the rugby player, Shane. So yeah, shit. So like I said, let's talk about Shane. So yeah, Shane. Like I said, turned up for his boxing, and I didn't think he'd turn up for the 8 weeks, and he did. And I've stuck with him now for 8 years. So Shane boxed. I think maybe 12, 13 times. Always pretty fit, apart from smoking. I caught him out for smoking quite a lot, but he had sort of like 12, 13 times. He did an MMA fighter back in May of this year, and Shane's had some problems. His daughter, Phoebe, we have spoke about. Phoebe was 4 years old, started to feel a little bit unwell. And it turned out that Phoebe had quite severe cancer, and sort of like without the fight, she passed away at the ages of 4 years old. So Shane and Abby, and obviously two other sons, have had some real challenges. So about 10 days ago, Shane gets in touch with me and said that he's feeling really unwell. Very suddenly, he was having problems with some of his pain back, and that sort of stuff. And then Shane ended up in hospital in Coventry, same like I did 3 years ago, when I didn't really sort of like know what was going on with me. And Shane had a bit of a problem in hospital. And then it turned out that Shane is suffering with a lung and liver cancer, a stage 4. So after everything that's happened with Shane, he's suffering with a severe cancer. So that everything that's happened, losing Phoebe, and then knowing that Shane is now in a real big fight to save his own life with stage 4 liver cancer, is just the worst situation that you could ever have. With me having mitochondrial disease, and there is no cure with it, but there are a lot of things for me to be able to deal with things. To lose potentially a very, very good friend who is very close. We are in touch, whether it's normally talking football, because obviously he's a big Coventry City fan. Shane being so poorly is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And Shane has asked me to do a podcast with him. He said he was never strong enough to do the podcast. So, yes, I am going to do podcasts number 2. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that Shane's gone through, or that he's going through. And obviously we're going to talk about Phoebe a little bit more. And talk about some of Shane's challenges now. Which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And we don't really know much more to say about it because it's so upsetting, it's so sad. But Shane's being so positive. He's doing everything to look after his family and to look after his 2 sons. To help, obviously, Abby's being amazing. And the whole family have already raised £6,000. So we'd like to raise more to make sure that Shane can get himself out. We said we're going to have gonna get myself no, cycling. We're gonna get I can't even say. But anyway, I didn't want to talk too much about Shane right now because I want to do the next podcast, podcast number episode 2 with Shane. So yeah, that's gonna be coming soon. Episode 2 is gonna be with Shane, and talking about his life and some of the challenges. I can't wait to do it. Once Shane feels a little bit better, he's feeling okay. We're gonna jump here and do podcast number 2. So yeah, we're gonna try and be as much positive as we can. So I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about is Ricky Hatton. So Ricky Hatton has passed away at the age of 46. It would have been his 47th birthday a couple of days. And I'm very lucky that going to watch some of Ricky Hatton's fights, went to watching his fight against Costuzu in Manchester. And that was just like an absolutely amazing fight. It was set up with a friend of mine in Manchester, one of my mates from the Navy. He said, oh, we can get tickets for it. And we went to watch that fight against Costuzu. And I was just like amazed by Ricky's, just his fan fights, his fan people that used to go and watch Ricky Hatton's fights. Again, some of my mates, we used to go to watch Ricky Hatton's fights. He just had this feeling of just being like, not just like an amazing fighter. And our gym was always set up for Hatton style training because we went to Manchester's to Hatton's gym. So we did all of our coaching boxing through Ricky Hatton's gym. Me and Cara, we did our level 1, 2, and 3 with Hatton with Hatton's gyms to learn his style of boxing. And everything that we did for 10, 11 years I was proud for my style of Hatton style drills. We were one of the first ones that did the Hatton Academy. And I'm very proud that we were one of the first people that did the Hatton style boxing. Um, I was very proud to be able to punch through the body, is what Ricky Hatton, his style. He could stop anyone with punching on the inside of your body instead of punching into your head. Um, his fight against Mayweather, it could have gone any way. Like, and then when Ricky Hatton, I think he went like 42 on the spin. And then when he lost that fight against Mayweather, I know he suffered, and he's very open about his mental health and how he felt about that fight with Mayweather, and it felt his real mental health. I think he was drinking very, very hard. I know he suffered with his weight. So, like, to sort of like a fight camp would be nine weeks for Ricky. He would need to take in 13 weeks because he would binge his food and he would binge his drinking. And again, he's very open about that. And I think when he had his fight, not past Mayweather, when he had his fight in again in America, he got knocked out in the second round. And again, when he lost that fight, he suffered. He was never the same. I don't think he was ever never the same. And he tried a couple of times to get himself fighting again, and then he lost a couple of fights. He had a big fight in Manchester, and he just couldn't do what he couldn't use his body anymore. He couldn't take those fights anymore. I think his mental health was struggling, and apparently he was due to fight again in Saudi, and unfortunately he passed away. And he had plans, apparently, and I don't know what the situation is, where he took his own life, or and I know he's been very close to taking his own life. I mean, he's been very open in the news. I know he was caught taking cocaine at one point, and for me, he'll always be Ricky the Hitman Hatton. Like, he would always be, to me, an amazing fighter, person, and again, a wonderful person. And to lose his life at 46 years old is just, I mean, I'm 44, is just awful. I was talking to my mum, and we were talking about things like cancer. I never met my granddad. He was 46. He died of cancer at 46. And like, I'm 44. I don't want to die at 46 years old. Like I said, I'm 44 now, and I have got some problems. And yeah, it just seems to be this bit of a trade where men are struggling with their mental health. It's not very specific to cancer or anything like that, but to losing Ricky Hatton's life at 46, and obviously my granddad, died in 1979 of cancer, 46 years old. I never met him, never met my granddad. And my mum always said that my granddad would be more strict than me and Daniel, my brother, would have been. Um, but yeah, um, breaking the stigma really of it's okay to talk about if you are like especially a man. I know that like it's a real problem and it's a bit of a stigma. Um, yeah, it's okay to talk. It's always okay to talk. So yeah, cheers to Ricky Hatton. Um, again, use his strength that he did had um, to keep everyone going. And I'll try to do what we do on Talk Tonight. So I guess the next thing I'd like to talk about is my football. Getting back into coaching. Coaching has been something in my life that has always been a positive for me. So like when I was like 16 years old, I was sort of like thrown into the wind of coaching roller hockey. I loved roller hockey. I used to get my skates out, I'd go out to the Asda place with all my sort of like my friends, and we'd always play hockey. It was effectively like a version of ice hockey. It's like roller hockey. And we had our team, the Gossainen Sonics, and we used to win everything. We won every title. We went everywhere as much as we could. Um, and every parent and the other teams were adults. And they used to get really frustrated with me because I always thought that even though I was pretty good at skating, I was very good rugby, football, that sort of stuff. Everyone used to say to me, you would be a better coach than a player, or be a footballer or a hockey player, or you'd be always be an analytic type coach. So even when I went to the Navy, I got injured playing rugby. It really hurt my shoulder when I was out of Richmond. And at the time, I started to learn how to do rugby coaching. Must have been about 20, 21 years old time. And because I was struggling with some of the pains and some of the problems that I had, I started to do some coaching with rugby. Um, Again, it was something that I was always interested in. And then obviously when I left the Navy, I did nothing. I was fat. And I mean like fat. Like I was like, there is pictures of me and I have to put it out. I was fat. So when I left Swansea and I moved to Coventry, I did obviously white collar boxing. Got myself fit again, started to do really well, and then I decided to start coaching again. So I've coached now for 11 years of boxing. And like I said, with the gym finishing, I needed to do something. So yeah, I have done all of my FA level 1, first aid, safeguarding, all that sort of stuff, and I've got I've done my DBS as well, so I can look after children playing football. So yeah, like I said, I played football, five-side football. I played all types of football for years. So, yes, I've been given the opportunity to help with Coventry City girls, under 10s, as a coach. Um, and yeah, it's always started to be a real challenge, with the girls. Um, Obviously, I am learning again to be a coach. The styles of football is very different. I've given some um, my ideas of coaching because I don't think there's very differences with any type of sports. If you're like a coach, you start to think about like different things and ideas of coaching, making the kids to feel really positive to be able to do things. But not just play football, just to be looking after your body, looking after your being able to move your feet, to be able to. I always say to these kids, like, can you shoot a football on your left foot? Why do you need to use your left foot and right foot? And I said, I don't believe that after 11 kids, none of them's left-handed. I'm left-handed. Like, well, my Shane's left-handed as well. But, like, I'm lefty. And Jack, my other son, is a lefty. And, yeah, like, coaching, I think, like I said, thank you to Coventry City and the girls that have given me the opportunity to help. I'm looking to do some coaching with children who have got disabilities. I'm looking for some opportunities to do some coaching with children with disabilities because I've got a disability myself. Um, so, yeah, I guess that, like, thank you to Coventry City to give me the opportunity to play football. Yeah, so thank you. Okay, so the other one to say thank you is to Cara, my wife. She gave me a cap of Cara Mia's venue styling. She does wedding styling. But her business is really thriving. And she's all over the place. I'm keeping my payments of life to keep myself looked after. To yeah, to look after me. So yeah, thank you to Cara Nia Styling, who is going to help me pay for things to do the podcast because there's obviously a price in it now as well with podcast and TikTok and all the rest of the jazz. So yeah, thank you to everyone who has jumped on Talk Tonight, episode 2, or season 2, episode 1. So that would be, I guess, on number 15. But like I say, this is episode 1. I have said like numerous times, if anyone would like to be jumping on to be a guest, please feel free. I'd love to be able to help as much as I possibly can. But say thank you to everyone who wants to listen. Again, if you've got mental health problems, if you've got anything that you are struggling with, there's always going to be a list on the podcast. Yeah, say thank you to everyone. And I hope that it's easy for everyone to talk. Thank you for a talk tonight. I hope that things are like better than what they were a year ago, and hope you enjoy. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.